And these candidates are running for San Jose City Council District 9. So, we will start here.
Well, good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Shay, Franco-Clausen, and I am a candidate for San Jose City Council District 9. As a mother, raising my children in the same areas in which I was raised in, I'm raising my 5 children with my wife, who is a police officer. And the reason I'm running is because I was really concerned about if my kids are going to be able to stay in this community they call home. There's so many things happening that is now impacting everyone. And I feel like there needs to be a different lens to some of the policy decisions, some common sense, some fiscal responsibility, and really pay more attention to how we're spending our tax dollars, especially for those of us in San Jose that pay a lot of it. As a mother, and I work currently right now as a director of development for an organization called Silicon Valley Faces, where I work with kids in middle school and high school, trying to build good communities on campus. And part of that work for the state of California for Assembly Member Ash Kalra. And I've experience working in tech, thank you, tech, philanthropy, and government. So I'm really interested in representing this area because I believe that representation matters. It's really nice to have a mom that's going to be there along with, there's some really great people on city council, and I feel that I have a different perspective being married to law enforcement. And so far, I've been supported by fire, and so many different organizations, and I'm just really excited for this opportunity to represent the city I love. Thank you. That's right. Shay, Franco-Clausen.
Hi everyone, my name is Kalen, Gallagher, and thank you so much for having us here. I know it's probably incredibly frustrating to have 6 Democrats to choose from and 4 Republicans, and I think it means a lot, because I think part of what's broken with this country is no one talks to one another, right? Everyone's separated. If you go back to 2012, I ran for school board. I ran for school board because I was a teacher. I was building a tech startup for teachers and for kids, and saw a district that was really dysfunctional, that I thought really needed to be reformed and drive radically different results for kids. So I ran. I was 29 years old. I knew exactly what it meant to run for office. I was lucky enough to get in. And since then, we've been working really hard to build coalitions of people together from all walks of life to say this is not acceptable. We need to move in a different direction and make sure that we are driving way better results for kids. I'm running for San Jose City Council because I think San Jose needs a similar shakeup. It's not lost on me that we're in the Roosevelt room. I don't know if y'all know this, but Teddy Roosevelt, while he was president of the United States, came here and he planted not that redwood tree, but the parent of that redwood tree, right? And he did that because he wanted to produce a statement that said, hey, education is important. Y'all need to start a high school district. And he really helped spark the district that I serve on now. And when I learned that, Teddy Roosevelt's one of my heroes. And I just take the responsibility of government very seriously. I believe in government. I'm probably to the left of you on a few issues, but I think most of the issues that we're facing aren't really partisan, right? The fact that San Jose isn't investigating burglaries when they're happening, that's not a partisan issue. The fact that potholes aren't getting fixed, that's not a partisan issue. So I'm hoping that I can get elected, get in there, shake things up. We're not going to agree on everything, but I'll always have an open door, and I appreciate the time to be here. My name is Kalen Gallagher, I'm running for city council.
Thank you for inviting. My name is Sabuhi Siddique. I am a resident of District 9 for 25 years. I am a mom of 4 children and a young grandma of 3-year-old. And I have had an opportunity of serving our community for more than 15 years as a community volunteer. Currently, I am president of Pinehurst Residents Association, which is in District 9. I'm an elected delegate of Assembly District 28, where D9 is. I'm chair in Human Relations Commission in Santa Clara County, and I run a food pantry by Humanity First USA for 6 years. And in these capacities, I was able to see the issues faced by the community members on a daily basis. And their stories and their struggles motivated me to run for District 9 City Council seat. I want to be their voice. My top issue is public safety, because I want the city to thrive in a safe manner continuously. And besides that, I have other talking points. like affordable housing and a voice for our community. I have also served as a board member at Cambrian Senior Center, which is in D9. And my name is Sabuhi Siddique. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Scott Nelson. I was born and raised in San Jose Hospital. I've lived in the Woodland area, a half mile away from the house that I was born into, about 2 blocks away from my parents. My father was a teacher for 43 years, had Alzheimer's, and I'm taking care of my mom, who's taking care of my dad. I'm running because I need to see some change. I like the direction we should be going in. We have the potential to be going in. I feel that education is probably the cornerstone. Education is the cornerstone of all the positive development that we can have. I myself hold a master's of education degree in the study of counseling psychology. I've worked with kids. I also attended theological seminary for youth ministry. So I've worked with kids. I've worked with kids and mostly with coaching. Athletics has been my forte. I've worked with kids that have gone on to be NCAA champions. I've got a student that graduated Harvard in 3 years while battling testicular cancer. And I've also got one of my athletes that's now doing life in prison for murder. You can't save them all, but you can definitely work with them all. I've been a business owner. Shortly after I graduated from Santa Clara University, I was the managing partner of the family business, Racket Sports, at the Oak Shopping Center in Cupertino. I do understand fiscal responsibility, meaning that when we're spending, back to the education, when we're spending $112,000 per year plus on a youth incarcerated, we need to consider what we can do to keep that youth from being incarcerated. Because when that child goes to prison or jail, it's going to be a revolving door, and we're going to be paying for that person throughout his or her life. So we need to do something about that. We've got a police force right now we've got less than 1 officer per 1,000 people in San Jose. National average is up over 1.5 per 1,000 people. So okay, thank you. Scott Nelson, running for District 9.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Rosie Zepeda, otherwise known as Rosie the Closer. And I first want to thank Jan and Peter, of course, and the Silicon Valley Republican Women for putting this on. So, our homes and our streets need to feel safe for our residents at all times of the day. And I think we owe that to our children and to our senior citizens. So in 2015, I came home and I was being burglarized. The burglar was still in my house. Then a year later, lo and behold, I was on my way to speak at a conference on negotiation, and my car was gone. And it was at that moment that I decided to take action. And I started doing the research to find out what was going on in my city. So public safety is a pressing issue. Let me say that again, it's a pressing issue in all of our neighborhoods. But public safety isn't just police and fire, it's also affordable housing and job creation so people don't resort to crime. I'm a former teacher. I'm a 43-year resident of San Jose, and I'm the product of a working class family that through hard work and goal setting moved into the middle class. Another Santa Clara grad, University, go Broncos. And for the last 12 years, I dedicated myself to empowering girls through STEM education and women through pay equity, especially where it matters most, which is the paycheck, which is at tech companies. I have an 11-year career as a tech executive. And because of that work, I was honored with a Women of Influence Award by the Silicon Valley Business Journal in 2016. And I can tell you that I'm a leader who's not afraid to stand up for what is right. And I want to represent your voice. Rosie Zepeda.
One of the questions from the audience was, where is Pam Foley? And I wanted to let you know she was invited and was unable to attend. So, what efforts specifically will you support to reduce the $4 billion unfunded liabilities faced by the city of San Jose?
that's a great question. I actually have spent a lot of time with a Stanford expert on city budgets, and I believe that we can't apply a corporate model to institutions. So cities have to be safeguarded. Okay. Having said that, I think this is not an issue just for this city, but for the entire state of California. So each and every one of you in this room has the opportunity to live to the age of 95, which means that we have to come up with a better system for pension. Okay? I'm not for getting rid of the pensions, but I think we can't keep the model that's there because it's just not sustainable. We can't have someone to work for 20 years and then all of a sudden we're supporting them for 40 years. It's just not sustainable. I think one of the main things that we need to do is we need to go back to the drawing board and we need to see how can we actually reduce those liabilities, which is one of the main things that the city needs to do in order to leverage some of its funding and be used for public safety.
Thank you.
It's okay, by the way, for you kids to keep saying your names. That's fair enough.
Scott Nelson. Yeah, not a lot of time to go into this one. We do need more time to discuss this. Basically, what I'm looking at is lessening the burden on the taxpayer while we're still bringing income in, which means fair and calculated impact fees on major developments going on in San Jose. The argument against it is it will drive away developers, big developers. Well, this is Silicon Valley, that's not going to happen. What we're having now is big money coming in, billionaires coming in from outside of the area and making a lot of money and going back and not sharing the burden of the infrastructure that goes along with it. So that's on the front end of getting the money in. We can no longer put the burden on the taxpayer. As far as the pensions go, yeah, it has to be a constitutional approach to changing the pension, having pension reform. We have to be careful not to get caught up in the courts again, like they did under the previous mayor. You can't impose a pension reform and then have it be unconstitutional. As I said, there's not a whole lot of time to go into this. I need a whole lot more time.
I'm Sabuhi Siddique. So what I would do is, for the budget shortfall, is I would look at all the budget departments and their budgets, and we'll try to see from which department the budget can be reduced, and still, if there is still a shortfall, I might propose increasing the taxes, but not the sales tax, but some other means of increasing taxes. For example, on soda and cigarettes and so on.
Yeah, so something I've experienced with as the president of our school board, right? We have to think about how does the pension liability creep into programs that we provide for kids. It is something that's affecting every school district across the state, and you're probably hearing it from your friends who are school board members or the teachers. This is a real issue that's really affecting how government can provide services. So I kind of approach this in two ways. One, how do I get into office, right? It's very important for me to not take money from special interests, from people who have controlled San Jose politics for a long time, because I don't think they really let you operate from a place of authenticity around some of these issues. I think it starts with conversations, it starts with math. We need to make sure that we are sitting down as adults, having the conversation, and figuring out where do these priorities lie. If pensions are really important for us to attract and retain really qualified people, great. Let's recognize that, see it as an investment. If it's not, if it's something we don't really need, then maybe we invest that money somewhere else that groups might like. So I think, I wish I had more time, but that's it. I'm Kalen Gallagher. Thank you.
I wish we all had more time too. So I will say that it's really hard. I mean, you're asking us to solve a $4 million deficit in 60 seconds. I don't have access to the budget, but I do have access to the one that they provide to us. And even there, it's not very detailed for us to be able to elaborate on where we make cuts, where are the receipts of how we spend things. But I do know, as a mom, believe me, I know how to pinch corners and still get the best results. And managing a budget, with 5 kids, believe me, I know how to manage a budget. But when it comes to public safety, I'm definitely not going to come after the pensions, in a sense. But I mean, there are some things that we need to change. But it's just one area that we lost a lot of officers. We lost a lot of officers, and we're paying for it in property tax crime. We're paying for it in different ways. However, there are ways that we can make cuts and increase the taxes on especially a lot of the businesses that come to our community and get a lot of discounts. If we just work as a community together, city council, who's ever elected, works with the current city council, then we can come up with a budget together to make sure that we cover this deficit.
What should be done to protect the citizens of San Jose from illegal aliens who have been convicted of crimes and released into our neighborhoods? What should be done to protect the citizens of San Jose from illegal aliens who have been convicted of crimes and released into our neighborhoods? Rosie, would you like to start?
So the very first question I'm going to ask you is, what data are we looking at? I mean, what data are you looking at? Are you looking at, you're speaking in overall terms? Nationally, are we talking for the city? So the reality is that if we're looking in terms of the city, this city in comparison to other cities in other parts of the United States does not, there's a perception, and I think perception for many people is reality. So the first question we should ask is, are the stats actually correct? And I think that there's a lot of headway that a lot of people make in the argument of, releasing stats that might not be correct in order to fear monger. And I think we have to be very careful of that. Now, to answer your question, the reality is that we have laws, and if someone has broken the law, and if they're illegal, then, they have the due process that actually has to take place. But somehow, there's a belief that's going around that basically that we're harboring them. And I can tell you that that's actually not true. I know people who work at the county, and I think that we have to make sure that we look at the stats and what those stats are. But my answer is, if they break the law, then you do the due process.
Thank you, Scott Nelson. I was going to ask a similar question. I'm not familiar with any statistics with regards to illegal aliens being released back into the city of San Jose. Now, if that is the case, if the statistics bear out that there is a great number or any number of illegal aliens being released back on the streets, then there is something we need to address there. Then all this falls back onto public safety. We've got less than 1 officer per 1,000 on the streets of San Jose. There are 2 cities in the entire Bay Area that crime did not increase over the last couple of years: San Francisco and Oakland. Respectively, there's 1.75 officers per 1,000 and 2.25 officers per 1,000. Crime did not increase in San Francisco and Oakland, it increased in San Jose. We need to consider how to retain the seasoned officers and how to attract the best and brightest young officers into our academy to enforce these laws that already are on the books. We have laws on the books for a reason. So if they're being released, then yeah, they don't belong on our streets.
Sabuhi, Siddique. Regarding to protect the citizens, yes, I agree that it's again, as I hear, it's a lack of short of law enforcement, the police department or the immigration. And also I believe that the laws are there, they should be punished if they are criminals. And what I see and read, that they are being sent back. Also, I believe that the police officers and the immigration and the law enforcement, they should be educated also. They need to know that if they catch someone, how to treat them, if they are illegal or if they are not. So a lot of education is needed for that practice, and it's a law, and it should be, we should abide by it, and they should be deported from here. Yes.
Hi, everyone. Kalen, Gallagher. So this is probably one of those issues where I'm a little to the left of you, and I just want to be upfront about that. I'm really frustrated about the national situation, right? Because this has been an issue since I was a kid, and still nothing's being done. On the left, any sort of border security is seen as untenable. We can't do it. And then on the right, I think there's, the idea of rounding up a bunch of people and deporting them, I think goes against some of our country values. That's my personal viewpoint. You know, if someone is out there hurting someone, committing violent crimes, killing someone, raping someone, I think there needs to be very severe and swift consequences. People need to get deported back to their country of origin, right? But my experience with undocumented people has been with my students, right? My former students, many were undocumented. They came here when they were 6 months old. They have no memory of Guatemala or Mexico or China or wherever they came from. And I think to round people up and send them back isn't the right way to go forward. I was raised Catholic. That's not what I was taught in church. And that's kind of my values. And I understand there's reasonable people will disagree about this, but that's where I stand. Big picture, though, I think around safety, we need a better police department that has more officers and is more secure. I'm out of time. Thank you.
So I want to say that the one thing that we celebrate, even at this panel, is diversity within our community. And a lot of the jobs that are happening here, people that own businesses, are from migrant workers. They're coming from India, they're coming from Sweden, they're coming from China, from all over the world, even South America. But one thing is I do stand for is law and order. If someone breaks a crime while visiting and working here and contributing, then they have to be punished fairly by law. But I'm also going to not agree with you on this one, and I think that we have this narrative and this, polarization of what rounding people up, like Kalen mentioned. It doesn't actually happen that way. I've met a couple of people at the doors, and I mean, we're on two different sides, but we both can agree that we want to treat people fair, and we want people to have the right to live and prosper in this country as we all do. So but I do stand for law and order. I'm a mother. If something happens to one of my children, best believe I'll be in the court screaming, So I just think that the common ground between the two of us is to have the conversations, and then we can go from there.
Do you support the Cambrian Park Plaza development becoming a San Jose signature project? Why or why not?
So I remember when this came up, and I'm from the district, and my sister and uncle live across the street from the Cambrian Park Plaza, and it being a signature project to who? The people in the community have spoken up and said it's not a signature project to them. And where I stand with them is the project that it is now is not good for the community around us. The one thing that we need to look at as San Jose and as a future city councilwoman is when we have development, because we do need to generate money here. I do want businesses to thrive, but we would love people that want to come into our communities and build with our communities. To have something that we can walk to. We can just get on our bikes and ride to, take our children to. And right now, as it's being, given to us, I don't think it doesn't fit into that area. There's no transit hub. Traffic there is crazy, and we would be adding to it if we didn't really think this all the way through. So as it being a signature project, I really don't support it.
Hi everyone, Kalen, Gallagher. So I think this is a broader symptom of development in San Jose being broken, right? We were running off a 1990s at best model in 2018, and things have changed a lot since then. I don't think San Jose is really taking full advantage of the technologies that exist to get input before we start putting, pen to paper, before we start creating 3D models of things. When the community grows up by itself and put out a survey that over 1,000 people filled out, there's very clear trends of what people are looking for. I think people are very excited about the possibility of developing that piece of land, but doing it in a way that's not going to have a 7-story building, doing it in a way that is not going to create a lot of traffic. And so as a council member, my first job is to make sure that project dies, right? And make sure that we have the votes to kill it. And then secondly, start over with more community input, and then broadly make sure that this doesn't keep happening, because this is not going to be the last piece of land that is going to be developed. All these big box stores are going to go out of business in the next 20 years. Unless we solve this now structurally, we're going to keep running into the same issue. I'm Kalen Gallagher. Thank you.
So I live very close to the Cambrian Park development for 25 years, and I used to take my children to the stores and wine and dine there all the time. This project started 2.5 years ago, and the meetings I started attending, I could not comprehend, because they were telling that a hotel will be built, there will be apartment complex, there will be a senior housing, there will be a park, We'll have the Curacao still over there. And over the period of time, I noticed now there will be 2 hotels, 4-story high, where Bevmo is. There will be a 7-story apartment building, 4-story development, townhouses, and now there is no park. And I am a member of Cambrian Friends Plaza, and I did not like the project at all because it's too crowded. The traffic is crazy in the morning. I drop my niece at Lee Avenue and Camden, and it's a nightmare. But at this time, we have to negotiate with the developers because I feel it is going to happen, and this is the first one, and there is more to follow in the city of San Jose. I don't like it, but that's how it is.
Scott Nelson, Cambrian Park Plaza. I believe that developer is far overreaching. I believe that progress is going to take place. That includes development, but what is being proposed is far overreaching. Kitty corner from there used to be Camden High School. Then it was Valley Christian High School. Now it's a retail space with residential, which increased traffic. Zoning variances were required for that. Now, kitty corner, they can do something else without any consideration for traffic or other infrastructure. Zoning variances will be required for that. No one at the meeting that I went to from the city of San Jose was able to answer the question, what are the current zoning issues right here, right now? One person even told me, well, there is no zoning right here. Well, no, it's county, it's not city, it's county. But that's what I heard from somebody that actually represented the city of San Jose, and that was disturbing to me. Yes, progress will take place, development will take place, but it's got to be smart. It's got to be sustainable. I'm out of time. I'm sorry, Scott Nelson.
So I think the question is that it's not, I mean, it's going to be developed. But the question is, with whose input? And right now, it didn't include our input. It didn't include the community input. Cambrian Park is very special. It has up to 5 generations who have lived. So it's a very unique place in San Jose. I had my campaign manager do research on developers in San Jose. And there used to be a time when developers were local, and about 60% of them were from here, which means they cared about the community and whatnot. That developer, and a lot of the developers now in San Jose are from Texas, which means that they are multinational and they take the money out of the state. Furthermore, then they bring people and pay them $10 an hour to work on that development. And I think the other better question is, so I think it has to be developed, but not the way it's being proposed now. I was one of the first opponents against this, and I helped the group that's working to mobilize the community on that. So I think it's really important as we move forward is, what is the legacy? What is the vision we want from the city? Yes, we want it to develop, but at whose expense? And how will it be developed? So I propose that the urban village be put over in Monterey. The infrastructure is there, it leads straight into the city, and they never thought that the residents of Cambrian Park were going to stand up and be against it. Rosie, Zepeda.